Hello, today I'm going to talk a bit about Kabylake, and I don't have it yet, so all of what I'm going to say is just based on basically pricing and what I've heard from other people, so highly accurate stuff clearly. Right, so first of all, Kabylake, for anyone who doesn't know, 7th generation Intel processors, apart from it's more like 6.1. No IPC gains over Skylake, it's just a core clock bump. It's pretty much like the D0 stepping was for the i7 920. So yeah, Acceleron is $53.99 and an unlocked Pentium G 3258 back in 2014 was $49.99. So yeah, that's pretty terrible value, and you'll find it only gets worse as well. I mean, look at this, £94 for a Pentium last generation. That would have got you a i3 6100. Although if you look, the only interesting thing is the Pentium has actually got hyper-threading now, which is pretty nice, but it's still a Pentium. The i3K is £180. Now, an i5 4690K or a 4670K, I think it is, was about £180. That was an i5. Yes. Even the top Skylake i5 was like, what, £140? And although it wasn't unlocked, you could still do base clock overclocking on it and get it to like 6 GHz on LN2 quite happily. So this is quite insane. Then we move on to the i5, which, although is still terrible value, is actually best value out of the unlocked chips this time round. 6700 or 7600K rather, £240. Anyone who bought an i7 2600K or a 3770K would have paid around this price, maybe a bit less for theirs back in the day. And multi-threaded performance of this new i5 is actually very similar to those older i7s. So yeah, that's also terrible. And then the biggest joke of them all, i7 7700K. Wow, look at that, it's come down quite a bit actually. It was £350 at launch, £338 now. Now, when the 5820K came out, which is a 6-core 12-thread CPU, Haswell E, on X99, that was £290 to like £310, but you could get it for £290 on sale quite easily. So, like a year and a half later, paying more for a quad-core i7 is pretty insane, even if it is clocked at 4.2 GHz stock, but I'll talk about that in a minute. And then also you have these insane bundles. The bundles on OC UK go all the way up to like £1,500, and fair enough, they are pretty highly binned, but you're paying £1,500 for a mainstream platform. I mean, you can get a 6950X for £1,400. So you could probably get, could you get a 6-core or an 8-core? I reckon you could get an 8-core and a motherboard for that price, and some memory to go in it. Like a 5960X used is about £600. You can get motherboards now for say £150 to £200 for a decent X99 board. So I'd advise anyone to stay away from those. Now, we'll have a look at the motherboards as well, because these are equally as stupidly priced in my opinion. So your basic boards, for Z270 chipset now are £113, which is fair enough, but they do tend to rise a lot faster than last time around, in my opinion. Like before, the Extreme 4, for example, from ASRock, I think that was £120 or £130 last time, and I'm still scrolling, I haven't found it yet. There it is, £160. Why? It's ridiculous. There's barely any new features. They haven't really had to put anything on extra over the older boards. I know pricing's got a bit messed up in the UK recently, but still, I mean, you could keep scrolling down here forever if I can get on the right screen. Yeah, and they go all the way up to £519, because that board is definitely better than like a Rampage 5 Edition 10 or like 2 GB SoC Champions, because you'll need two because one of them will break. Even like the gaming boards, I mean the overclocking boards rather, like this 270 X Power was like, what, £235 last time round, I think, and it had pretty similar specs, really. And this one is now £327. Wow, impressive. There's no Maximus Extreme yet either, so I presume that'll be somewhere down here. The formula's 350 quid. And actually they have a good version of the formula called the Code, which doesn't come with all the gamer rubbish on, so if you're going to be overclocking, and the Extreme is actually, this time around, going to be just a glorified gamer's board, not an overclocking board, I'd go for the Code. They're also bringing out a motherboard called the Apex, which isn't out yet, but a lot of the overclockers have been using it, and it's got 2 DIMM slots, and it is actually amazing. So if you're into overclocking, I'd get that instead. Now, we've finished looking at those, so we'll go into a bit of overclocking. So the stock speed on the 7700K is 4.2 GHz with a boost of 4.5, which is great if you want to run it stock forever, even though you've got a K part, because well, it's fast out of the box. But as you can see on air cooling as well, this is average overclock on air cooling on hardware bot, 5.1. Water 5, I don't know what the people on water cooling are doing, letting themselves down. Cascade 5.7, and LN2's up at 6.7 already, which is very impressive. Now Skylake could only get to about 6.7 on the absolute best chips, like the ones that were 1 in 1,000 chips, and sort of the, say, 1 in 10 pretty high-end chips would do about 6.5, 6.4 gigahertz. Now the frequency record, I reckon will get to near 8 gigahertz, but I don't reckon they'll get it towards the end of Kabylake, but 7.3 gigahertz as it stands. Cinebench, which is my favourite benchmark, the record for that currently stands at 1515 CB, which is pretty insane, and that's at 6.771 gigahertz. I don't know if you can see that or not. Anyway, and that was done by Roman, so he was using this Asus Apex board, which he's had a couple of videos on, you can see there. So that will be the board of choice for overclockers this time round. So let's find a more average score for the Cinebench. Let's go down to the bottom somewhere. These are all LN2 scores. So we'll have a look at something more reasonable. What about 5.1 gigahertz here? Underwater, I think it is. Now most of them delidded can do 5.1. So it's scoring about 1,144, so it's still not as fast as a 3930K with a decent overclock on it. Still not hugely faster than a 2600K with a decent overclock, to be fair. I mean, if you get a decent 2600K, you can be getting 850 points in Cinebench quite easily. Now, moving on to the i5. Again, we have very high overclocks across the board. It's not been used as much as the i7 yet, obviously, because no one uses them. But £240, we're getting over 1,000 points in Cinebench, which is very impressive. But that's at 6.4 GHz on liquid nitrogen. So your average user is going to be getting like what? There's a guy here, nearly 5.1 GHz, and he's getting, there you go, 850. So that's like about the same as 2600K. So you're paying more, and you get the same performance as a CPU from 2012. So yeah, that's not the greatest efficiency ever. Also, not very good progress from Intel either. Now this is the most interesting part for me, the i3, because I like getting low-end chips on high-end boards. But with this time around, the i3, well, firstly for a start, it's not actually available, which is why you can see there's barely any submissions for it. There's only 37 subs for it at the moment, because you can't buy it, it's on pre-order everywhere. So, yeah, I haven't pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered the Pentium G3258 at 50 quid, but I'm not paying £180 for an i3. I mean, you can get a Skylake i5 6500 from CX for £120. I think you can pick up a new one for like £160. So why you'd go for an i3 over an i5, I've no idea. So yeah, that's my lovely Kabylake rant. I will probably end up picking it up maybe like an Apex much later on, maybe like 6 months down the line, second hand. I got a used ASRock OC formula on Z170 for 150 quid, and they were about £225 new. So that was a good saving. So if I can get an Asus Maximus Apex for around the same price as that, like 150 quid, and I can pick up one of these stupid i3s for probably like £80, I'm not paying £100 for an i3 second hand. I think I paid £90 for my i3 6320s, but that was like right after Skylake launched, while they were still £130, £140 new. So yeah, we'll have to see what I can pick up. I'll try and get a cheap board, but I probably will skip this generation of Intel if I can. Obviously Ryzen's coming out, so hopefully if AMD smash them on the price to performance front, they'll stop having these stupid prices, and they'll do a price drop on. I have got the feeling that they are really trying to cash in and get as much money as possible for these CPUs before Ryzen comes out, and then they'll do like a big price drop. I also think with Ryzen coming out, that on the next platform Intel do, I reckon they're going to have a 6-core on the mainstream. So that could be very interesting. That actually might be worth getting. But that won't be coming till probably 10 nanometer. They might do a 14 nanometer one, but I think it's highly unlikely. So yeah, Kabylake's boring. We'll have to wait for Zen. I have seen a couple of Zen boards like the X-Power, and unfortunately they're not looking too promising. I think we're going to have the problem that we had with the RX 480, where even though the GTX 1060 is the same price as the RX 480, the coolers and the PCBs on the RX 480s even from the same manufacturers, tend to be much lower quality for no reason at all really, whereas the Nvidia parts tend to have much higher quality PCBs and coolers and fans and shrouds on them, which also makes the AMD cars look bad and sell even worse than they already are, which doesn't help at all. Anyway, we'll have to see what comes out of Kabylake. Nothing very interesting for me, to be honest. So yeah, that's it for this video. I've gone on for nearly 16 minutes, flipping heck. I'll see you guys in the next one.